fantastic. Videos on if possible. We love being able to interact with you as well. You will see that you're on mute. That's just because it's going to be Josh, myself, and Paul today that are going to be speaking. Great to have you here. Just as we get underway, I will mention that unfortunately Vera is ill today. Those of you that know Vera, maybe you're connected with her. Unfortunately, she could not make it today because she is sick. So hopefully she'll get better soon. We still have some great things planned for today, though. So honestly, super excited about this workshop. We have a lot that we are going to cover, right? We have an absolute ton of stuff to cover here. This is really, really important because what we want to do is make sure that we're getting you learning and growing during this call. So look, just as we gather, what I would love everyone to do is make sure that you pop in the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Can you just pop that into the chat, right? What do you do creatively? Sharing that would be awesome. And where you are in the world. So just pop that into the chat just as we get underway. Amazing. Cool. All right. People are starting to pop it in. I love it. Awesome. Love it. So yeah, go to the chat there, open that up, figure that out if you haven't used that before. Can see everyone popping in. Amazing. Graphic design, illustration, calligraphy, lettering. Nashville, Erica. Nice. So good. Illustrator and portrait artist from CA. Nice. Mira, that's very cool. Washington, book video trailers. I love it, Vicky. LA, nice trade, illustration writing. Awesome. Hey, Sherry, great to see you. Central Valley, California, illustration graphic design. This is awesome. Everyone, if you've just joined us, I know we've got people popping in. Please pop in the chat where you are in the world and also what you do creatively. I love this. This is so good. We're going to also have an opportunity for you all to connect during this workshop as well. Look, we've got lots of stuff to cover, so we are going to dive into it. So to start with, we'll pass over to you, Josh, if you can give yourself a bit of an intro.
Yeah, great to be here, Logan. So yeah, my name is Josh Cleland. I'm a children's book illustrator, and I work out of my home studio in Hillsboro, Oregon. And that's actually just to the west of Portland, if you're not familiar with the area. I like to say I'm about 4 or 5 minutes away from the Nike campus. And I've actually been designing and illustrating. I've actually been in my own business since 2009, freelancing, mostly graphic design. And then in about 2015, 2016, I switched to pretty much full-time illustration for children's books, greeting cards, magazines, basically everything kind of like in the children's market. Um, and my focus is kind of, books and things with like, that's kind of an animal character design focus. And in just this past December, I launched my very first course, Character Design for Kids Books, that I'm really excited about. And I'm actually working on my second course. And yeah, so again, so I guess I'll go ahead and introduce Logan. So Logan completed his entrepreneur mastership and had his own creative business for 11 years and has worked with university and creative programs around the world, helping creatives to learn and grow. So he has worked with hundreds of graphic designers, muralists, illustrators, visual creatives, including me, throughout North America, Europe, helping them to grow their own businesses and also using his wealth and business knowledge and experience. He has helped clients leave their toxic day jobs to finally build their business of their dreams, and has taken freelance creatives from 1,000 per month to 5,000 per month, and then even 25,000 or more per month. So I actually started working with Logan, I think since March of last year. So over a year now. So post COVID, I was kind of in a funk. I wasn't sure what to do next with my business. So I just started working with Logan to just kind of re-energize things, get back to the foundations, and look for opportunities to help really kind of grow my business. So since then, I've leveled up my mindset, launched my first course, which I mentioned, and working on my second course, which will be coming out later this month. I'm really excited about. Yeah, so just excited about my business again. So Yeah, so I guess Logan, I guess I'll pass it on to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. Lovely to be here as well. I did mention right at the start, in case you missed it, unfortunately, Vera could not join us today. She is sick. So hopefully Vera will get better as soon as possible on that. Look, just to add what Josh mentioned there as well. Yeah, the people we work with are very much in the visual creative space. So look, we do work with people that kind of like Josh, have been doing this for a longer time period and they need more of that support to take things to the next level or expand their offerings or generate more sustainable revenue. We also work with people who are right at the start of the journey as well, right? Some people are literally just starting out, wanting to leave a day job or are caring for family right now and would really love to build this on the side. And we also work with people who've been doing it for a couple of years, but it's still not quite sustainable yet. So, we love being able to work with a wide range of people. And then as Josh mentioned, we work with visual creatives. So for us, that tends to mean graphic designers, illustrators, muralists, surface pattern designers, occasionally animators, photographers, videographers as well. Most of our clients we work with are in the US and Canada, and we do have the odd client outside, occasionally in Europe as well. I am actually based in the US myself, even though I don't sound like I am. I am from New Zealand originally, if you hadn't caught that already, but I do live on the East Coast now. I'm actually in Richmond, Virginia based now. So yeah, sometimes people are surprised when they come on. They're like, where is that accent from? Australia, UK, but actually New Zealand. So there we go. Awesome. So we've got lots of good stuff to cover today. I'm going to also get Paul to do an introduction as well. Paul is one of my team, so he'll share a bit more about his role and what he's doing here as well. Over to you, Paul.
Everybody, yeah, really excited to be here today and can't wait to hear from Josh and Logan about more of this stuff. I'm based up in Maine. I have a seasonal Christmas tree business here. I do events businesses, so I come more from the business side of things. But I'm also the creative business specialist and a coach with the Flammable team, as well as running social media. So you might have seen me before, or might see me on a call right after this sometime next week or something. So really excited to chat with you about moving your business forward. We'll talk more about that later, but yeah, great to be here.
Amazing, fantastic. And as Paul did mention there, we are going to be giving away some free clarity calls at the end of this workshop as well. So do stick around for that. Like we're literally going to be putting Paul's link into the chat, and you can just book in a free call. So make sure you stick around for that. It's really a chance and opportunity for you to really digest what you've learned from today as well on that call. So definitely stick around for that. All right, we're going to dive into it because we've got lots we want to do. So the first thing I'm going to say here is like, congratulations for showing up, for being here, right? Whether you're live, there might be some people watching the recording, but ultimately showing up for your business is such an important part of it, right? There's plenty of people that don't show up. They've got ideas, they could do this, they could do that, but it's really going, hey, you're showing up to learn, to grow as well. The big difference between people who are successful in the visual creative space and not successful is that the successful people are taking action. They're showing up, they're committing to their own growth, and learning is part of that as well. So awesome for you being here. Today is also about action. So look, yes, great to learn ideas, learnings, theories, what you could do, there are different ideas, but we also want to make sure things are taken to that implementation and action stage. This is a big part of what we do in our coaching programs as well, and is going to be important today. So as we work through it, feel free to use the chat, engage in there, also making sure that, yeah, you're up, you're listening. If you can have video on, that's fantastic. Take notes. Right, get deep into what we're discussing. This is such powerful stuff that we're going to take you through as well. As we go through it, both Josh and Paul are going to be adding some different notes and things as well from their experiences too, and experiences from coaching from Paul's perspective, but also from actually running his business from Josh's perspective as we go through as well. We will also have time for questions at the end. We were pre-submitted some questions, but please feel free to pop some questions in the chat at the end as well, and we'll cover what we can there. All right, so the topic for today is all about pricing in your illustration business. Yes, we're going to use book illustration as a bit of a lens. That is obviously a big area of Josh's experience and also Vera's as well. But this is going to be relevant for all types of visual creative businesses. We're going to use this as quite a lens, but even those people here that are like, well, I'm not really an illustrator, or I'm not a book illustrator, maybe you're a graphic designer or a muralist, or you're doing something else in the visual space, basically all of these principles still very much apply. These are really, really important things. So look, being great at business and building a successful business, there's more to it than just being amazing at what you do creatively. I kind of wish it wasn't. I wish if you were good at what you do creatively, that you could just build a long-term sustainable business, right? I think that would be a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, it's not the truth. So part of what we're doing here is to understand that the business side is a very important part of the growth journey, specifically pricing, right? So we're going to really lean into pricing and talk about this quite a lot today. Many people get stuck on pricing things wrong. They either price too low. That's really, really common, particularly when people are early stage. Also, some people price things too high, and the people that they're talking to don't see the value of what they're actually offering, right? Everyone's just going like, oh, wow, you're charging that amount. It's like triple what I was thinking about actually being able to pay, right? So part of this is going to also be about how to price correctly, have the right pricing strategy, but also about communicating value, right? Because if you do not get your pricing strategy right, it just means that you will struggle to make this business work long term. You might get a few clients, you make a few sales, but it's going to be very hard to sustain this long term. It's going to be very hard to take time off, to have a balanced workload, to leave the day job if that's where you're at, or build a sustainable long-term business. So this stuff is so, so important. It's also a big reason that people burn out, right? Is that ultimately they're just working a lot and not getting paid properly, right? So this is a big source of burnout, not getting your pricing right, or you can end up with having just no clients, which also is ultimately not the business that you want. So we're going to go through some of the classic stuff that comes up. These are things that we see within our clients we work with, within coaching, that we work with them on as well. The first thing we're going to cover here is really about communicating value. This is so, so important. We have to make sure that the people that are buying from you, the clients, the customers, understand the value of what you actually bring. Now, what some people do is they try and compete on price. Right? Hey, work with me. I'm the cheapest. I'm the most affordable. Right? This is not a good strategy, just to be really clear. You're much better to focus on competing on value, being the best, offering great value, helping people get a return on what they're paying you for, right? This is really important. So rather than competing based on I'm the cheapest, you want to be competing based on you're the best, right? This is an incredibly important point. So part of this here to communicate that value is to really dig into what the clients actually need. Right? You could say, here's what I offer, here's what I do, this is how I charge, all of those things there. But actually, we've got to flip it around and go like, what is the value? What are they actually interested in? What are they asking for? How can I actually help them? Right? So one thing that you can do is ask them. Pretty straightforward, right? If you have an inquiry come to you, don't just go, hey, here you go. This is what I offer. This is what I do. Here's the pricing. Ask them and be like, that's fantastic. I'd love to learn a bit more about what you need so that we can really ascertain and figure out how we can help and if we can even help in the first place. Incredibly important. A lot of people get this piece wrong. Really, really important to understand that you need to communicate value. To do that, you need to learn about what the clients value. Ask them questions. Maybe get them on a call. Maybe send them an email with some questions. The other thing that you can do here to create value is to communicate properly. It's kind of a given. Lots of people get this wrong. We've got to understand that as soon as someone starts to communicate with you, maybe they've contacted you saying, hey, I'm interested in working with you, would love to learn more. They're giving you the opportunity to communicate value from day one. The value is not just in the thing that you deliver, the creative product, the creative service. It's also in how you work with them. It's in the communication, right? So if you are slow to reply, or you've got lots of spelling mistakes in your emails, or it's not very professional, they're going to be like, wow, the value actually decreases. So part of communicating value is through having a great sales process, replying to emails in a timely manner, having a proposal set up as well. Building trust is also a big part of this. Right? We talk about know, like, and trust. People will work with people they know, like, and trust. So building trust is also going to increase the perceived value of what you are offering. Right? People are willing to pay more for something that they trust. Right? If something's like, this seems like dodgy or a scam, or am I going to get my money back? Is it going to be a big outcome? Well, most people are willing to invest a lot less because it feels like a risk. So this is where building trust is incredibly important. How do you build trust? Well, you build a connection, you build a relationship, you share testimonials, you share stories about other people you've worked with, Really, really important. Trust is so, so powerful. Professionalism, a big part of it as well. Are you easy to talk with? Are you just lovely and kind and easy to talk to? Are you going to do reasonable turnaround in your communication? Are you honest? Do you actually seem to care? Are you interested in building a relationship? Right? This is really, really important. People will once again value you more if that you build a relationship and a connection. Part of doing that is asking what they need rather than just trying to sell. Here's my thing. Here's what it is. It's like, let's have a conversation. Let's make sure this is a good fit. Let's have some good communication here. It's incredibly important. This is something that we work with on our clients. We work with, with our clients a lot is how to have good communication with their clients. It's incredibly important. Obviously, there's a lot to this stuff here. One final thing I will mention is around that professional proposal side. Right? How can you communicate value? Well, having a good professional proposal. Right? Yes, you can send proposals, pricing on an email, right? You can do that. But if you can actually have more of an attached PDF with outline information, testimonials, some of your actual artwork, all laid out in a professional way, the value will increase of what they're willing to value this as, and you'll be able to charge more as well. So lots to this stuff here. Josh, would love to hear some of your thoughts, experiences from this side as well.
Sure, Logan. I think from like a children's book perspective, like when you think of a client being like a publisher, um, I kind of want to like talk about the idea of building trust. And I think there's a few specific ways to do that. And some of this actually goes beyond the publishing world and just in general. But like um, for publishing, demonstrating that you can tell a good story. And there's several ways to do this. Obviously, it comes down to your portfolio, what you put in your portfolio, the quality of work you put in your portfolio, and also your social media and things like that. That can be an extension of your portfolio as well. Um, because that's what a publisher really wants to know is that you can tell a good story through your illustration or things like that. Showing work in context, you know, showing your past work so it actually looks like it could be part of a book, even if it's like personal projects. And actually, personal projects I think are key because they really demonstrate your competency and really allow you to take on something um, that that you can that allows you to really direct the ship in your business. So yeah, and also things like networking, portfolio reviews, um, you know, your past work, like you said, testimonials, like Logan was saying, things like that. I don't in actual publishing, I don't do a lot of like proposals because a lot of that's handled through my agent or through the publisher side of things. But like with independent projects, with independent books or things like that, then I will develop a proposal and hand that over, in that context as well. Um, but yeah, those are just some of the things that I could think of communicating your value. It really is about building that trust, and then demonstrating that you can take on a huge project, that is a book, because it is a quite daunting project. So yeah.
I love that. I think, part of what we're doing here, everyone, is that getting Josh to actually share the real stuff is so important because Josh is out there. He's doing it, right? He's been doing it for a long time, but also he's experiencing the sort of challenges that I'm sure many of you have seen and faced as well. Things that come up, trying to figure out, okay, how do I communicate value? How do I price these things? What should I put in a proposal as well? Right. So it kind of right what I said at the start is like, hey, it's more than just the outcome, right? The design, the creation. Even if you're fantastic at that, well, can you build trust? Can you communicate well? Can you create a good, solid, professional proposal? Now, the good thing is they are all things that can be learned, right? That is the good news. I'm sure, many of you here are like, I'm no good at that stuff. It's like, you can learn it, right? Well, some of you are like, oh, yes, I'm okay at some of those things, but not great at others. There's room to learn. There's room to grow. That is one of the beautiful things about knowledge, is that we can all grow, get better, and learn. Plus, you don't need to be an expert in these things. It's also about putting systems in place, templates in place, making it a lot easier for you as well. We're going to talk about basically picking the right price for your work next. Just before we do that, what I do want to do is get everyone sharing their Instagram URL, because I want to get people who are here live connected too. Celeste from my team is also going to post the Flammable Entrepreneur one in there as well. Josh will find his one there, so please make sure you're connected with Josh and myself as well. What we want you to do is drop in your URL, not that tag, right? Everyone go like literally to a browser, just like everyone's doing right there, and go get the HTTPS and drop it in there, because what this will allow everyone else to do is go through and click and follow. So I see everyone's popping in there as well. Amazing. Celeste's got our one in there as well from the Flammable Entrepreneur. Josh's is in there too. But go through. This is also part of building connection and community, is building a community of other like-minded creatives too. So once you've popped yours in there, go through, click everyone open, and like go through and start following people as well. This is one of the beautiful things. This is one of the things I love about the creative community here, is there's so much support for each other. I think that's a really amazing thing. We've had lots of people join us in the last few minutes as well, so welcome. We've got lots of good stuff we're diving into here, talking all about pricing for illustrators as well as for visual creatives in general. And obviously we're using book illustration as one of the key lenses there too. Thank you everyone for popping the links in. I see they're still coming through. This is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so how to pick the right pricing for your work. This is something that everyone struggles with. Right? How do I charge right? What do I charge? Most creatives tend to undercharge, right? That is actually a very common thing. Particularly when people are early stage, they tend to undercharge. Honestly, we've seen people who have been in business for many, many years. We look at their pricing and go, okay, there's some work to be done. We need to increase that, right? Actually, it's so important to compete on the value rather than on that price, right? So yes, a lot of people do undercharge. What we need to do is increase that pricing. Obviously, you can just start higher. That's one strategy. I'm going to talk through a few different things in the workshop, but even here specifically around how to price. One of them here, like my favorite resource when it comes to pricing, this big book here. Raise your hand. I can see everyone on video. Raise your hand if you have this book, if you recognize it. There's a few people that do, right? The Graphic Artist Guild pricing book. It's amazing. It's called the Handbook Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. You can buy it online. It's an amazing tool. Is it the be all and end all? No, right? It's not always going to give you the perfect answers, but it gives you a good reference point, right? A reference point of what's possible, what are the ranges, and these good things here. One of the things I say this to all our clients all the time is that remember, just because it's in a book or just because someone else is charging doesn't mean that you can't charge something else. This is your business. We've seen people charging all sorts of different rates, even above and beyond what is even recommended in this amazing book as well. So look, that's something that I definitely recommend. It's a powerful resource as well within that. Then in terms of other things to really think about, part of it is that there is going to be some guesswork. Some people get really stuck in like, what's the absolute perfect equation? Well, for most industries in the visual creative space, there is some equations, some rules you can use, but there's also just going to be some guesswork, right? This is going to be part of it. Sometimes you've got to put your price out there, see what people say. When they say yes, you go, okay, well, I could either charge what it was or I could have charged more, right? So this is going to be a bit of experimentation as well. Now, the biggest lesson here, and this is like the biggest lesson of this entire workshop, is to understand that you need to charge based on what the market will pay, based on what the clients will pay, rather than based on just your time. Right? This is a lesson that, honestly, I need to say it 50 times because it is a bit confusing. But basically what we're saying here is we need you to charge based on what something is worth and what people are willing to pay for it. And that can be detached from how much time that you spend on the thing. What a lot of people do is they reattach this idea of time and, okay, how long did it take me? Okay, that's how much I can charge. It's a multiplier of that or something like that there. Actually, the reality is that you can charge based on what someone is willing to pay. Right? If you can spend a very little amount of time on something and someone is willing to pay a lot, good on you. Fantastic. That's really, really fantastic. So we've got to understand that this is an incredibly important thing. understanding value, not just time here as well. Paul's going to sort of touch on this a little bit more as well, because this is such an important thing, something we see this coming up for clients a lot too. So yeah, I'll hand over to you, Paul, to share some comments.
Yeah, totally, Logan. That's great stuff. And honestly, yeah, we recommend focusing on project-based pricing versus, focusing on the hourly rate. So we don't want to do that basically because it's more value-based outcomes rather than for your time. And there's a great story, Pablo Picasso thing. Some of you might have heard this, but he drew a sketch on a napkin. And basically there was the idea, somebody asked him to draw this little sketch and he gave it to them and he said, it's 1,000,000 francs or whatever the currency was. And the lady was astounded. And he's like, it took me 40 years to be able to do that. And so it's really about your value and what you're putting into it. It is not necessarily tied to your timing. And the more you can get away from that, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And I think just such a good analogy and story there too. Like pricing, people get really tangled up in like, what is my time worth? And these things here. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. Right? That's not what Paul's saying either. It's like these things still matter. It still matters the time you put into it, both in terms of your career of learning, but yes, the actual time you put into the individual item as well. But ultimately, it's the value equation of like, what is that thing worth, and what is someone willing to pay? There's so much expertise and background that can go into that as well. So such an important thing here. We're going to talk about how pricing impacts your time next, right? Because this is kind of very much related to what we've talked about here. Ultimately, if you undercharge, you're just going to be working more. Right? If you want this to be a sustainable business, if you want to be earning 5K per month, 10K per month, 15K per month beyond, well, whatever that looks like, the lower your pricing, the more you're probably going to have to work, right? You're just trading time for hours. Or sorry, you're trading hours for what you're actually doing here, the return. We've got to be very careful. We've seen this again. I've had some conversations with people that we haven't worked with, and we talk to them, and I'm like, hey, like, where are you at? What's going on? And we had someone that ended up working with us a while back who said, oh, Logan, I'm earning 3 to 4K per month, but I work 60 plus hours per week. Right. And yes, I would love to earn $10,000 per month, but like I can't double my time. And they're like, I constantly just work like 130 hours a week. I think it's crazy. They were already losing some of their weekends. They were up late at night. They're pretty frustrated. They were just kind of stuck on that hamster wheel, working all the time. One of the big problems, and one of the things we then worked with them on, is their pricing strategy. Ultimately, they were just undercharging. And what that meant was that whatever they charged for a project, they just had to pour a lot of time and they had to work on a lot of projects at any given moment. That becomes really, really overwhelming. What we've also got to remember is that when you charge for something, you're not just charging for you to create that and do the creative work there. You're charging for everything to run this entire business. You also need to cover your downtime, your holidays, right? You need to pay for the marketing side, the admin side. You need to do that sales stuff. There's a lot of things you need to do. So it might all be very well that you're like, okay, well, I charged $1,000 for this thing here and it only took me 4 hours. Wow, that's a good hourly rate when you break it down. But you've got to also remember, what about all those extra hours you need to put in to run your business, to get the opportunities, to build your own knowledge? And also, you want to take a break. Right? You need holidays as well. You don't want to just be working all the time. So this is why pricing is so, so important. The other really interesting thing here around pricing right is that if you charge more and you get paid what you are worth and you feel really good about that, you're also going to do a great job. Right? You're going to do a great job. That means you'll have a happier client. You're going to be more willing to put your time and creative energy into it, rather than rushing through and being like, well, I only got charged this, I only got charged a couple $100, it was way under, so I'm going to rush through it and not do such a good job, right? There's often a really interesting value thing that's happening in your brain here, and it's not always conscious, right? You may be unconsciously just putting less effort in and not that same creative energy in and be like, oh, well, like I'm doing the work and it's what I got paid for. It's like, no, like you want to be doing the best version of your work. You want to be putting that creativity in there. And how to do that is to actually charge properly. Right. So we often see that, we've seen the odd client who's like, oh yeah, I undercharged for this project here. They also feel bad. They delay it. They procrastinate. They don't end up doing great work. right? Whereas actually, when you're charging what you're worth and you're really happy with that, you'll also get a fantastic outcome with that client. They'll be happy. They're more likely to come and work with you again. They're more likely to refer you. They're more likely to give you a great testimonial. All those things become true as well, right? So there's lots of lessons around this, but you do need to make sure you've got a good pricing model because you're going to need to have the buffer to cover the other times. Also, let's say you have a great month. What about when you have that slow month? Just remember that the great month is also going to be subsidized, and when there is those slower times, we want to level this out, and we want to have obviously as level as possible revenue, but there is always going to be some up and down there. Josh knows this. I know you've seen that within your business too. So we've got to really look at it and go, okay, great, I've got to charge good amounts for when I do have projects, because there is going to be some downtime here as well. So really getting the balance around these things is incredibly important. Josh, would love to hear kind of some of your thoughts and experiences around this one here as well when it comes to, pricing impact on your time.
Sure. Yeah, so I really I found really that, the larger the project or the bigger the budget, um, really it's funny, there's an inverse thing where it's like it feels like it's less stress because you've got less on your plate, right? So that just allows you to have more time for the creative solutions, more space for creative solutions, and you don't have to take on as much, right? So, um, I remember my first, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, first time I had like a poster that I did that was like $10,000, which is like pretty high paying for me, especially at then. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was a lot, I was that it was so freeing to be able to just spend the time that I wanted to spend on a project on this poster and really sink my teeth into it, and really create a something that was really proud of, versus being stressed about also having to get this other thing done or this other thing done and these three other projects that are also on my plate. So, um, yeah, so I think that, having a good budget that you're comfortable with really protects from that burnout. Because if you're, like I said, if you're just spinning your wheels and you realize, you suddenly do the math in your head that, oh, wait a minute, if I want to make this much, I got to increase my output this much. Well, that's not going to work. That means I might as well just give up on sleep. Um, that's not going to be sustainable. So yeah. There's also something that I've noticed, that there's like this off time production that, like, when you're not sitting at your desk, sitting at your computer, actually doing the thing, and when you put it down, you go spend time with your family, you go for a run, shower. Probably the shower principle is probably kind of what this talks about. It's like you've got this, like, behind you're thinking about your projects in the back of your mind, and the more projects you have on your plate at any given time, the more that's all scrambled, and you can't really, like, come up with these, like, aha moments that happen when you have less projects. Um, so that's also something that I've really noticed, is like the less projects that I have, or no, the bigger budget means less projects, means more of that kind of like those aha moments when I'm not working, and then when I come back, I create a better product. So yeah, that's kind of how I like to think about pricing and things like that. And from a children's book perspective, um, it's you have to be very cognizant, because sometimes it can actually be kind of difficult to make a full-time income just doing children's books, because it can, depending on the market, depending on whether you work with books in the UK versus the US or Australia, there could be a really big, um, discrepancy on, like, the pay. So just being very mindful of how much you want to make. And then you're probably gonna have to start on smaller projects, like, you know, maybe taking on some small board books, some small little, like, um, I think my very first book that I did was like the small little, like, board book. It was called Portland Baby. don't think I have it with me, but it didn't take me very long to do, and it was a low paying book, but it allowed me to get that ball rolling, knowing that where I was going. So yeah, so that's kind of what I have to say about like how pricing with versus time.
It's huge. Thank you so much, Josh, because I think, once again, seeing the real life of like what's going on behind the scenes, seeing Josh's journey around these things is so important. We're going to talk about pricing next, and I'm sorry, about confidence and pricing next. So this is kind of actually related to what Josh has talked about here, is like even with that earlier project, building up confidence. There's a lot of confidence stuff that goes into how much you charge. Now, the first thing I'll say up front is that most people have pretty weird beliefs around how money actually works, right? Like most people, that means probably most people here as well, have pretty weird beliefs about what money actually is. I think we all kind of forget that money is just a form of trade, right? It's just a placeholder of value, right? You're not taking something from someone when they pay you or you pay them. I think this is a really common thing that people get really tangled up in, is like, oh, if I've got this money and I'm giving it to someone, they're like taking something. Or if I'm charging $1,000 or $5,000, like, then, I'm taking something from them. No, this is just a form of trade, right? The form of trade just happens to be that the money, the cash, is a placeholder, rather than trading something that you've created. Maybe you grow vegetables and you have a whole lot of vegetables and you trade that for something, right? This is just a form of value that is much easier than trying to trade a whole lot of apples. Right. So the idea here that we can often forget about is that money is just a form of trade and value. Part of this here is also connected with money mindset. Right. These odd ideas, these weird beliefs we have around money can actually really get in the way of charging what you're worth in a confident way. Right. So part of it here is that you may need to work on what's called your money mindset, how you view money, your confidence around money, what money means to you. Right, and understanding that sometimes these weird beliefs get in people's way. So there's a very important thing I'll say up front here. Now, often what people charge is also connected to where their confidence is at. Right, like if you feel really confident about what you're offering, you feel confident about the thing that you do, like you're going to feel confident to increase those rates, to charge those high rates. If you're like, oh, I don't know, my work's very good, imposter syndrome is a very real thing that comes up, like, yeah, it's going to be harder for you to even want to be able to try and charge these higher amounts. So what this says is that part of the journey around increasing prices in a sustainable way is a journey around building your own self-confidence, working on your money mindset, working on these odd money beliefs that we can all have. Right. So understanding that confidence is something you can work on. I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm just confident or I'm not. And yes, we will argue that some people may have more natural, easier confidence than others, but it's something that you can also work on. Right? You can work on belief. You can work on confidence as well. So this is something that you may need to work on. There's lots of things that you can do to work on your confidence. One of them is just to celebrate the good things that are happening. Right? Celebrating the wins, the small wins. This is something we get our clients doing all the time, is celebrating those small wins. It's not always, hey, yes, I signed this amazing client. Yes, that's part of it. But it's also, okay, what is the small thing? What is the step I took? What is the thing that I got through? What is the failure that I learned from? Right? Actually celebrating wins helps you to increase your feeling of overall confidence as well. This is incredibly important. Now, another thing around this confidence piece is that you're probably actually worth more than you realize. Right? We see this all the time, is that actually your time, your value, your expertise is probably worth more than you think it is, because you've got your own lens, your own stories about how you came across that knowledge, that ability, or how much time you did spend on it, right? So often you actually need to work on your own self-worth and understanding that you're probably worth a lot more in terms of your time, your energy, your expertise. Part of this here, though, is also about finding the right clients. Right? Finding the right clients. We see this sometimes where, we might start working with someone who's like, hey, like, I'm trying to get my business going and I've been sending proposals out. I've been trying to price and like, I think my pricing's okay. And we might even look at their pricing and go, yeah, your pricing's fine. But everyone is saying, wow, you're so expensive. Who do you think you are? Like, you're charging over double what I think is possible. And we're looking at their pricing going like, we think you probably actually need to increase those rates a little bit. The problem can also be the ideal clients, the target market, who they're talking to. Right? There's going to be people out there that may value what you do. They're just not willing to pay what it is actually worth, or what you need to and want to charge for it. So that is understanding this as part of it as well, is that if you're finding that everyone is just saying you're too expensive, well, it might not be anything to do with what you're charging or even how you're communicating that value. It might be the who of who you're talking to. Right? So that's part of that journey as well, is sometimes testing and trying, talking to different people, trying new ideal clients, new target markets. That can be very much part of it as well. There's a ton of stuff around this. The other thing here, I think it's almost a bit woo-woo to say this, but like, working on abundance mindset is incredibly important. Right? Most people in the world have what we call a scarcity mindset. That means that most people are going, hey, we're all fighting over things. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough contracts. There's not enough clients. There's not enough money. Right? We're all fighting over it. Right? That is a scarcity mindset. And it's incredibly common. Abundance mindset is incredibly important. It's something you need to work on. Now, because most people tend to live in a scarcity mindset, that means that you're probably surrounded by people who are more in a scarcity mindset. Well, what does that mean? That could be your partner, your best friend, your children, your family, your kids, your aunties, your uncles. Like, we've got to be aware of that, and that can actually flow into us as well. So I'm not saying just cut all those people out of your life. What I'm saying is you need to be very aware of this. You need to work on that confidence and that abundance mindset yourself, and also surround yourself with people that do have more of that abundance mindset too. So as I said, yeah, it's a bit of a woo-woo thing, but it's so true. Right? Working on abundance mindset, working on confidence. These things are incredibly important. I know we see this a lot, obviously, within our coaching and programs as well. Paul, would love to hear, some of your thoughts and perspectives around this as well.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Abundance mindset's so important. And yeah, I definitely used to have scarcity mindset. I did photography and I'd send out proposals just like you're talking about. And I would be terrified and cringing that they're going to be, oh, this is way too high. And then they'd be like, that's great. We'll go ahead with that. And I'm like, dang, should have charged more probably. But it really is just your mindset getting in the way a lot. But yeah, in general, I think a really good way to be confident in your pricing, and really the only way to know what your pricing can be, is to charge it and get paid. So you have to be sending out these proposals, up your pricing, even if it feels too high to you, because you don't know for sure. And if you get a ton of no's, yeah, maybe you need to adjust, but honestly, you're probably undervaluing your ability. So make sure to be confident and keep going.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much. I think one thing I'm going to just cover here next is talking about goals, right? The goals of what you want here, because that's also going to affect your strategy, your business strategy, and your pricing, right? It's like, what is your goal? Look, if your goal right now is just to build a little side hobby, bring in a little bit of spare change, maybe you don't need to be working on some of these things we've talked about today. I think probably pretty much everyone here has the dream to do the creative business thing full-time, or you're already doing it full-time and you just need to be more sustainable, right? So therefore, we've got to make sure that we understand, like, what are the goals? If your goal is to leave your day job or create sustainable revenue or do this long-term, well, you need to actually get some of these things right. If you're undercharging, it's going to be really hard to build that long-term business. It's going to be really hard to be sustainable. It's going to be really hard to leave the day job. So this is the sort of stuff that you do need to work on as well. There's many ways to build a successful business, but one of them is to make sure that you're getting the pricing model right. Something I do want to briefly share around this is that you want to be doing what we call valuable offers. Paul and I talk to a ton of people about this. Valuable offer we define as something that you're charging at least $300 for. I don't mind what currency you use, 300 USD, Canadian dollars, euros. There's a little bit of difference between, I get that, but we're really using that as a reference point. I'm not saying that you can't do things that are under that. We're just saying that what we see again and again is that you need to charge those higher amounts as the majority of what you're focusing on for the offerings that you have, right? So yeah, we want you to actually be working with clients where you charge $500, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, right? Because then you're working with a smaller number of clients at a time. You can really focus on them, just like Josh said as well. You can get that creative energy, the background mind really working on a smaller number of projects. Also, you don't need to work with 100 clients per month. Right. So this is something that we see again and again. We see a lot of people who are trapped in basically selling lower ticket, lower priced items. $3 stickers, $20 prints, the Etsy stores and things like that, print on demand, right? Those things there, I'm not saying you can't do them. I would say perhaps reduce the focus of time on them and get focused on these higher ticket items. Because if you're selling things for $5, $50, even $100, $200, you're just going to have to do so much. You're going to have to pour a lot of time in. You're going to have to sell a lot of volume. You're going to have to market to a lot of people. If you can charge those higher amounts, it's going to be able to get that sustainable amount more sustainably as well. So really, really important there. All right, we are going to make sure we jump into some Q&A. And Sherry, I'm going to make sure we address your awesome question in the chat there as well. If other people have questions, fire them into the chat. I'll cover what we can here. We were sent in some beforehand as well. Before we jump into Q&A, I do want to take us through what we're going to be doing around the freebie calls with Paul. These are clarity calls. Look, in the end, what we're covering today is just the tip of the iceberg. Having more clarity and some learnings around these different things helps, absolutely. But we often need to dig a lot deeper into the stuff in a more personalized way as well, right? We know that, yes, figuring this stuff out is important. Pricing, the business elements, the marketing, right? Often you need to take a step deeper. So the truth is today's workshop is just that tip of the iceberg. What's going to be required to build a long-term successful business is going to be really focusing on these things in a deeper way. So that's why we do have some freebie calls we're going to be giving away. I am going to be dropping literally Paul's link, his Calendly link in the chat. And I want everyone to open it up and book a call in for that. It's a free call. This is something we can't do very often. We love it when we can. I've just got a couple of quick caveats here before we all agree to take up Paul's time on his calendar as well. So I'll briefly share and then we'll pop that in the calendar there. So the first thing is that anyone that books this call, I want you to be an action taker. I want you to be in a place where you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to do something differently. Maybe you want to leave your day job in the next year or two. You want to grow your business. If you're just kind of gathering ideas and like learning a few bits and pieces and not ready to implement things, please don't book this call because we do have limited spots there. The second thing, number two, is that you're willing to get vulnerable, share where you're at, share ideas, talk about your dreams with Paul, what's getting in your way, and open to hearing ideas and observation as well from his vast experience. Basically, we're saying you need to be coachable. That growth mindset is incredibly important. And part of that is just willing to be open with Paul as well. Third thing, pretty obvious, but we think it's incredibly important that you commit to it. You turn up on time, you're not there late, you have your video on, it's going to be on Zoom, you're at a table, you're able to take notes, you're not kind of, holding your phone in the car, making Paul all dizzy. Really important, you take it seriously. Paul's time is incredibly valuable, and obviously we've got those limited spots there as well. So those are the three caveats. Everyone that's here on live, I would love you to just pop in the chat, yes, or agreed, fair enough, just something to agree to those three things that I've shared, just to make sure we're all valuing Paul's time. So just pop in the chat, yes, agreed, sounds good, great, awesome, cool. Everyone's popping some good things in the chat there. So yeah, just mentioning if that's good for you, you agree to those things there. What we're going to do next, thank you everyone, awesome, amazing insights, absolutely. I'm going to post that link in. This is Paul's calendar link. Everyone that's here live that agrees with those things, pop it open, find a time right now, right? This is the best time to do this, is just to take action on this, get that booked in, open that up, open that link up there, and go through. If you click submit and it doesn't work first time, you'll just need to resubmit. Sometimes people clash on the same time. Any time that you can see available, Paul has got times for tomorrow, the next day, early next week, and even in the next three and a half weeks as well. There's some times further out too. So please do make sure that you book that in. This is a great chance to really digest what you've learned. Also, if anyone here is interested in learning more about how we can help, let Paul know as well, and he can take you through what that part of the process looks like as well. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Make sure you're getting those booked in. We're going to dive into Q&A next, question and answers. So the first one I am going to bring up, I'm just going to dig through there and find it in the chat. This awesome one here from Sherry. Can you discuss more about how to charge pricing with repeat clients? Right, this is such a good one. Understanding that maybe you've realized it takes more time with something and you're needing to raise prices. Right, so there's several different things to this. Number one is that if you've got a client currently and you've got a project and you've charged X amount and then you've realized it's a whole lot more work, that's kind of on you, right? I think you know that, Sherry, others know that as well. It's kind of on you. You might just have to get through that project and charge more in the future and take it as a learning. Now, if they, however, are getting you to do extra work that you didn't agree to, that's different, right? You then can go back to them and say, hey, based on our original scope, there is an extension here. We need to agree to a new rate, or some extra rates for that. Even though we prefer generally to keep away from hourly, sometimes in that situation, it may make sense for you to just charge an extra rate, even an hourly rate on that. So that's the one thing I'll say there. But let's kind of zoom out of it, because I think, Sherry, what you're really getting at is like, how do I increase those prices over time? It is really hard to increase pricing with repeat clients. That's the first thing that I'll say, is because whatever you've charged, if you've charged $1,000 for something, they now value you as someone that charges $1,000. So if you try and charge $1,300, they're going to be like, oh, but it's worth 1,000, right? So it can be quite hard. Part of that, therefore, is often about bringing in new clients, doing the marketing thing, connecting with those new people as well. We even see it with referrals too, right? If you've got someone that you charged $1,000 for and they refer you to someone else, those people have potentially talked. So the referral is also kind of almost stuck in the same price range as well. Referrals are great. We love that, but it's something we need to be mindful of. However, there is some tips and tactics around this as well. One of them is that you can basically raise your pricing. You might say, okay, moving forward, I want to be charging $1,500 for new clients. Well, with that person that you charged $1,000 in the past that wants to work with you again, you can tell them that. You can say, hey, look, just so that you know, moving forward, I am actually charging $1,500 for new clients. However, I really value the relationship that we've built, the work we've already done. I can do a reduced rate for that, $1,200. Right, so you've kind of sneakily said, hey, it's worth this. I'm charging this for other people, but I'm valuing the relationship, but I still do need to increase that rate. Just being aware that anytime you increase the rates, there's a risk you may lose them as a potential client. The good thing is things that tend to be negotiable as well, right? So that's really, really good. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about here is basically around when to know it's time to raise or change prices. We're going to actually get Paul to answer this one here, because he has a ton of experience, from our clients as well. But yeah, Paul, would love to hear kind of your thoughts for everyone here. When do you know it's time to raise or change those prices?
Totally. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think pricing is one of the biggest things people always talk about on these calls that we're hopefully going to get on a lot of with you all. But yeah, it's basically the premise is you should always be increasing your pricing basically to keep up with inflation, your cost of living. Plus, as you grow personally and professionally, you're getting better at your skills and you have more value. Your work has more value. So as a general rule, it can be really good to do this once a year at least. Sometimes even twice a year can be really a good thing to revisit. But going back to what Logan just said, as a response to that question, if you have existing clients, this can be a little tricky to navigate, right? And so, yeah, you want to give advance warning if you can, preferential pricing, as you said. And it's always a risk. So that's got to be, you've got to up it at a point where you have enough work coming in that you feel confident you're okay with worst case scenario losing that client. I think is kind of a good thing to keep in mind, because it is a risk. But hopefully they'll understand it. If you approach it in a good way, even if they don't work with you in the future, you'll maintain a good relationship. And then, yeah, essentially the best way to increase your prices is to have plenty of leads coming in so that you have enough business that you can say no to projects that don't align or aren't at the prices that you're needing to charge. And so you have less reliance on one specific lead working out. I know when we first start, often it's like, oh my gosh, I need this job. It's this or nothing, or it's all in on this, right? I have to get this job. But ideally, we do a really good job with marketing and outreach, and we have enough inbound stuff that we're chatting with a lot of people, and we have options there. Another thing I'll just mention real quick is the 20% rule. I talk with clients or potential clients on calls about this a lot and stuff, and anybody who's in the creative field. 20% of the proposals you send out should technically be no's coming back to you as our guiding rule, basically. So if you send out 10 proposals, 2 of them should say no. This kind of lets you know that you're on the cusp of what the market will allow for your pricing. If you're getting all yeses, you probably could be charging more, is basically the rule there. So just bear that in mind. And as Logan touched on much earlier in this workshop, the target markets are such a key piece too. Some people will pay more than others. You could try to pitch a $300 mural to 100 people that are wrong, and they'll all be like, that's way too much. But you could pitch it to one person who's right, the right target audience, and for $3,000, and they'd be like, yeah, no problem, that's fine. So it's really about identifying what the problem is there, if it's your pricing or if it's that you're reaching out to the wrong audiences.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Paul. Lots of questions popping into the chat there. I'll address what I can from them as well. Another one we were sent in advance, I do want to cover. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to dive deeper. And the question was, how do I make the value of my offerings clear? And I think this is kind of also related to your one there, Sky, around what to include in proposal. So look, part of communicating value, I didn't really talk about this so much. Part of it is making sure you're selling yourself as well. Right? People don't generally want to just work with a random business. They want to work with a human, with an individual. Right? So understanding that selling yourself as part of that offering is an important piece of this. Right? So in a proposal, you should have information about who you are. Now, you might be like, yeah, but they know who I am. We've been messaging for weeks, months, or things like that. Well, yes, maybe they know, but the decision maker who might be looking at the proposal may not be them. They might be taking it to a boss, to one of their clients, or someone else, to their team. And that team, all they get is this proposal. They may not have built a relationship and connection. So part of that in that proposal is to include some information about you, your background, your experience, right? Understanding that is really important. It's the same with why you should have an about page on a website. It's why you should build connection as to who you are as the creator, the artist, right? This is really, really important. Bring you in. And that's part of communicating value, right? Is part of the value is that people want to work with people, right? So this is incredibly important. Also, it's a lot easier to trust a person than a nameless brand, right? The only time we trust nameless brands is when we've been marketed a lot by it and we recognize we're brand recognition. Well, instead, we've got that human recognition, right? Understanding, oh, there's a real person who runs this business. So yeah, showing up on your Instagram, showing up on your about page, having that in the proposals, it's incredibly important as well. And then I also mentioned this already, but building that relationship, right? Reminder, part of this is building a connection, building a relationship. Don't just try and sell them a thing, actually solve a problem for them. Understand what are their needs and how can you help them. This is incredibly important. Is there actually a match? If you just try and sell to everyone that you talk to, well, a bunch of them won't even be a fit in the first place. Plus, you're not actually taking the time to learn about their needs. The other beautiful thing when you learn about someone's needs is there might be an opportunity to help them in other ways that you can help them, right? So you might be like, yeah, someone's contacted you about, let's say, developing a logo, right? If you're more in that branding space, well, if you learn more about their needs, suddenly you might be like, wow, I'm now doing a mural in their restaurant because yes, I was developing a new logo and new branding for their restaurant, but also I'm a muralist too, right? So part of it is also starting to understand what are the other ways you can help them. And suddenly that project that was maybe worth 1,000 or 5,000 can actually be worth significantly more. So, it's an incredibly important thing on this as well. So just looking here, Jessica, your question. If one is starting out with the book you mentioned be a good resource to figure out what clients are willing to pay? The short answer is yes, right? Those of you that didn't see this earlier, look, this is a resource. It's great. Graphic Artist Guild. You can buy it online. Absolutely, it is a good resource. I've got my blur there, sorry, but you can see it there. Look, as I mentioned earlier, it's not the only way though, right? And yeah, as you're saying there, Jessica, is what are they willing to pay? This book doesn't have all the answers. I think that's often what we're looking for. It's like, just tell me what I should do. Well, part of it is going to be learn about what their needs are, understand. You can even ask them what their budget is. Not everyone's actually going to tell you my budget is X, but we've seen that work really effectively for some clients sometimes is actually putting in, hey, here's a question. What is your budget? What is your range of budget here? Some people might say, oh, it's X amount. You go, oh, okay, great. I can charge them somewhere in that realm, maybe even more, right? So this is really important as well. But part of this here, Jessica, for other people as well, is there's experimentation. You learn what you can pay, or you learn what you can charge through actually charging it, right? How do you ultimately prove it? Just like Paul mentioned is, yeah, you've got to try charging it. And if someone says yes, you know that absolutely there's at least one person out there that is willing to do that as well. Amazing. Our time has ticked along as well, team. So we're going to be wrapping up very, very soon. As I mentioned, please do book a call in with Paul. I would love everyone who's here live to book in a call. Click on that link there, Paul's calendar. He's very generous in opening up his time. Try and get a time as soon as you can, but in the next three and a half weeks is totally fine as well. On that call, Paul will help you to digest what you've learned today as well on that too. So make sure you book that in. What I would love everyone here who's live here to do is I want you to pop in the chat a takeaway. right? What is a takeaway from today? What have you learned? What have you found useful? What has been helpful? If everyone can pop one takeaway in the chat, that would be absolutely fantastic. I know some of you are just getting the call booked in. I could see at this end, people are booking in calls, which is great. Awesome. Will, Mark, Cindy, Annette, many people there. That's great. So yeah, keep booking that in, but pop in the chat. What did you learn? What has changed for you? What's something you found curious or interesting, surprising, right? Feel free to pop that in the chat there, and I'll just read a few of them out just as we wrap up over the next couple of minutes. Yeah, love that, Mark. My work is worth more than I think it is. Absolutely. Mindset is our most powerful tool. Love that. Erica sharing, focus on pricing your value. Nice. That's awesome. Not just the hours. Professionalism. Yeah, Carmen, that's huge. Offering and showing professionalism. It's more than just the outcome. It's the communication. It's the trust you build. It's that professional side as well. People want to work with a professional. People want to work with people they can trust. It's incredibly important. Yeah, thanks. No worries there. I don't think I could choose one. That's all good. Switching to an abundance mindset is huge. Yeah, honestly. And it's also not something we can just do straight away, right? It's a journey, right? Even just recognizing, hey, I feel like I'm in a bit of scarcity mindset today or this week, this year. That's good to understand. Okay, well, you can actually start to work on that. Nice. Sherry sharing, the more confident you feel about what you're offering, the more confident you'll feel about charging those higher rates. I got here 20 years late, but the confidence and the worth of work, I love that, Joan, as well. Do watch the recording. We'll make sure we get the recording sent out to everyone that had registered. So if you did miss the first half, you can absolutely do that. The 20% rule to know you're charging. So many good things popping in the chat here. We are at that time, so we are going to wrap up. Look, I'm just going to pop Paul's link in one more time. If you haven't grabbed that yet, please make sure you do open it up so that you can at least get it booked in, and you can grab one of those times. It's been lovely connecting with you all. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming along. Josh, this has been awesome. It's been so good doing another workshop with you as well. We're going to wrap up there for today, everyone. Have a lovely day. And yeah, look forward to hearing how the calls with Paul go as well. Take care, everyone. Awesome. See you. Bye.
Everybody.
Cool. I just want to jump back in here. This is just a recording I created after the workshop. Look, if you couldn't be there live, but you've watched this recording, fantastic. The free call with Paul is also open to you, right? So if you go and check in the email, there's actually a link in there that is for Paul's calendar. I would love you to book that in. It is only open for the next couple of days, so please make sure you do get that all booked in. There is limited spots there for that, but yeah, you can book it in. We'd love to get you on that call, really to digest what you've learned with Paul as well. And also, if you are interested in learning about how we might be able to help, absolutely, you can let Paul know as well, and he can run you through the steps for that too. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch up soon. Ciao.